So hello guys and welcome to episode 5 of our Reviving Manor Racing save. Now if you didn't watch the last episode in Imola, go back and watch that. It was a very interesting Grand Prix where Sergio Perez managed to clinch the win and 2 Mercedes followed him home. Max Verstappen only good enough for P4 on the day. We finished down in P13. Our teammate Ollie Caldwell continues his difficult start to life in F1 with a P20 finish. And what does that mean in the standings? Well, it means that Max Verstappen is still leading the drivers' standings. Charles Leclerc, though, Sergio Perez and even Lewis Hamilton are chasing him down. He's not running away with it like he is in real life. It's more on the constructors that we're looking at this season, and currently we are sat in P8. 5 points behind Williams. If we could get P7 in the constructors, I'd be very, very happy with that. Haas all the way down in P9, only scoring a single point, with Alfa Romeo and Alfa Tauri yet to score any points. We are beating Yuki Tsunoda in our rivalry at this moment in time, but we do head to Monaco, the jewel in the crown of the F1 calendar. I'm looking forward to this. I'm nervous about this. One mistake here can cost you the race, cost you the car, and it certainly could happen, especially if it's wet weather here in Monaco. So we're hoping it stays dry and we can have a lovely sunny weekend and enjoy a few bottles of champagne on a yacht after, if we possibly can. So I'm going to get to qualifying and we'll see you just after qualifying for the Monaco Grand Prix. And so there we have it, guys. George Russell is on pole. Lewis Hamilton in P2. The Mercedes looking particularly quick. Once again, Max Verstappen down in P4. You've got to scroll all the way down towards the bottom to find the Manor Racing boys. We're in P18. Ollie Caldwell in P20. Logan Sargent had a shocker. He will be starting at the back for Monaco. Zhou Guanyu and Nick De Vries there. Yuki Tsunoda, our rival at qualifiers. Let's get to the grid for the Monaco Grand Prix.
Formula 1 returns to Monte Carlo once again today, home to the world-famous Monte Carlo Casino that first opened in 1863. And of course a certain road race first held in 1929. There's no greater an occasion, no more valuable a win than the Monaco Grand Prix. The prestigious Circuit de Monaco, then, is not all that dissimilar today to the layout that made its debut almost a century ago. It's 2 miles and 19 corners through the streets of Monte Carlo. And although the average lap speed of around 93 miles per hour is the lowest of the season, the tiny margins for error make it the natural habitat of the safety car. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. George Russell will begin today's event in pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, Norris, Bottas, Magnussen, Gasly, Oscar Piastri, Stroll, Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Albon, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Lewis, De Vries, Ollie Caldwell, Joe and Logan Sargent. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race.
Right then guys, so strategy time. Now, it did set to go for a softs onto mediums, but we've been struggling a little bit with tyre wear. Our car's not the kindest on its tyres, so we're going to start on the medium and then go on to the hards. There's a good chance of safety cars around here, so that's something to be aware of. But my word, here we are, Manor Racing on the grid in Monaco. What can we do from the back of the grid? I have no expectations today. Let me know down in the comments, where do you think we're going to finish today? Are we even going to finish? That's something that we'd all like to know. But let's get to 5 red lights for the Monaco Grand Prix. Here we go then, the Monaco Grand Prix. It's Russell and Hamilton. It's an old Mercedes front row. 5 red lights and we are underway. Russell covers off Hamilton into turn 1. We're straight away going to ride on board with us as we want to have a little look up the outside even of Nico Hulkenberg. Tsunoda covers us off on those hard compound tyres for Yuki Tsunoda, and we settle in. We managed to get through turn 1, which is absolutely crucial here at Monaco. As we have a little bit of a look further up, we can see Norris, Magnussen and Carlos Sainz battling for P6. Norris in P7 there, behind Carlos Sainz, but at the front it is George Russell who leads away from Hamilton. It stays as they were, but he's nearly pulled out a second gap already, George Russell, on this first lap. Leclerc was having a little bit of a look at Hamilton. Then come the 2 Red Bulls in Verstappen and Perez. Sainz in P6, as we've said. Lance Stroll in P10, and we're all the way back down in P17 as we ride on our cockpit cam through the tunnel as we come out into the light, and then the hard braking zone of this corner, and we have to get that bang on there. But Yuki Tsunoda on the hards will be looking to get past him as quick as we possibly can. Logan Sargent all the way down at the back, just chasing on to Ollie Caldwell, who's making his way around Monaco for the first time. Lap 1. And coming on to lap 5, we've been stuck behind Yuki Tsunoda for what seems like an absolute eternity. We're looking left and right. We go to the outside. Tsunoda covers us off. We squeeze him in, and we manage to get the position up to P16. We're finally past Yuki Tsunoda, and we can see Alexander Albon up the road. It must be said, we are very quick through Casino Square. We seem to have got this, despite having a massive moment there. We do seem to be quite quick through this section. This is where we're gaining time on Alexander Albon. But as we come to the end, come to the middle, of lap 6, Russell and Hamilton still leading the way from Leclerc, Perez and Verstappen in P4 and 5, Norris still P7. It is a little bit of a procession around Monaco at this moment in time, but we're very, very glad to get past Yuki Tsunoda. And as we come to the end of lap 9, we are now looking at the back of Alexander Albon. We feel quicker on these tyres. Those soft tyres are wearing. We seem to have a little bit more grip, a little bit more pace in places. But Alexander Albon, like he has done so many times in real life this season, making that Williams as wide as it possibly can be, and we're really struggling. I mean, look at this. We're practically pushing him through Casino Square down into this little run here in towards the hairpin here in Monaco, but we are really struggling to find an overtaking opportunity, as we know it can be so difficult at times to get past cars around Monaco. But at this moment in time, Alexander Albon defending well for P15. Can we have a little look in the tunnel now? We get a decent exit. Albon gets the better exit though, as we're getting more and more desperate to get past this Williams. Lap 10. And on lap 11, you see us coming on to the hot start finish straight. Again, we're close. We've got the DRS open. We look to the outside of Alexander Albon, but he covers us off. And once again, it's fantastic defending from the Thai British driver. And you can see all the way up here, we're all on the back of him, but just can't seem to quite get an overtake done. We're darting left and right, and then we just cannot get the move done. He's struggling on those tyres. We're considering the undercut, but remember, we're on the mediums going onto the hards. It's a very delicate situation at this moment in time, but we may have to try something to get past Alexander Albon. Lap 11. Lap 12, and we're hoping and praying that Alexander Albon is going to come into the pits here. As Alexander Albon does come into the pits, this is the moment now. We've got to really push as we give the wall a little tap on the left-hand side. We now desperately need to push here and try and get past Alexander Albon, who is in the pit lane, along with the Haas, I believe, of Kevin Magnussen just tottering out as well. Albon's onto the medium compounder tyre, Magnussen onto the mediums as well. We've got a few cars in the pit. Ollie Caldwell chooses not to pit yet. He's actually going to come out side by side with Kevin Magnussen. Ollie Caldwell all the way on the run up to Casino Square. Will he manage to keep this position? Let's have a little look at this. He won't. Kevin Magnussen shows his experience and gets past Ollie Caldwell, who's struggling at this moment in time. Meanwhile, we're still bombing around trying to make this pay and get the overcut on Alexander Albon. On lap 13, it's not been his best lap. It's been a little bit scruffy so far. Meanwhile, from the front, Lewis Hamilton is the first one of the leaders to pay onto the medium compounder tyre. He's now stuck behind Lance Stroll, lap 13. And at the end of lap 13, we are coming in for our pit stop onto the hard compounder tyre, remember? So something a little bit different from us. We can see Oscar Piastri there on the left-hand side, as we trundle down the pit lane. We've got a couple of cars coming in as well. I believe Yuki Tsunoda is one of them. Let's have a little look at what he goes to. We're going onto the hard compounder tyre. And we're out. We haven't got a whole Yuki Tsunoda out onto the medium. So Yuki Tsunoda, remember, our rival in this, is on a faster compounder tyre. And meanwhile, Alexander Albon is already around turn 1 and being held up by Oscar Piastri. So we've lost out in that round of pit stops at this moment in time. Meanwhile, at the front, we check a look back at Max Verstappen, who is now leading this Grand Prix. He's yet to pit, as is Sergio Perez. George Russell, I believe, has pit into P3. Bottas P4, Stroll P5, Hamilton already pit on P6, Gasly P7, Alonso P8, Leclerc and Ocon in P10. At this moment, a few cars still left to pit. Lap 14, we are closing the gap on Alexander Albon, as you can see on the left-hand side. But what we can see in front of us is we've just seen a glimpse of the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso, who's come out behind Alexander Albon. I'm assuming he's not going to be best pleased with that. If we have a little look at that, Alexander Albon now in front of Fernando Alonso, who's also on the hard compounder compound of tyre, the same as us. So we've got to catch up to these two and try and make a pass if we possibly can. Meanwhile, at the front, Verstappen still leads from Perez, but we're expecting some more pit stops shortly, so we'll come back. In fact, Verstappen's in now. Verstappen's from mediums onto softs. I wonder if Perez may follow suit with that, but Verstappen, let's see where he comes out of the pit lane here as we see him trundling down onto the soft compound of tyre. So Max Verstappen, we would expect to be very, very quick towards the end of this Grand Prix. Could he still win the Monaco Grand Prix as we see Hamilton go past? Verstappen now coming out of the pits. He's going to come out comfortably into P4. Lap 16, we're on board with Lewis Hamilton just coming into the swimming pool chicane. And I believe he's going to have a little bit of an issue here as Lewis Hamilton loses it and crashes into the wall. He's managed to keep it going. We've just seen Max Verstappen drive past and a few other cars as well. Lewis Hamilton absolutely tumbling down the order at this moment in time. Let's see if he manages to get out of this. This could be a safety car. He's looking left and right. He's managed to get a gap. And Lewis Hamilton, he's back out into the Grand Prix, but with a damaged wing. And I would suspect that he's going to be coming in to the pits to fit a new wing for the Mercedes. It's disastrous for Lewis Hamilton, who was have a cracking race up until that point. Just made one little error. We couldn't get a better camera angle of it, but Lewis Hamilton is indeed coming into the pits for a new wing, and I presume he will be fitting a new set of tyres as well. Disaster for Lewis in lap 16. And on lap 17, we're keeping an eye on Lewis Hamilton. Just after that pit stop, he's fitted a fresh set of soft compound tyres as he goes around the long hairpin, but we've got green flags, yellow flags. I think Lewis Hamilton has got an issue, and it looks like that clout into the wall has done more than just damage his wing. Lewis Hamilton appears to be retiring from the Monaco Grand Prix as we see. I believe that's Ollie Caldwell coming up behind him. Ollie Caldwell's just overtaken Lewis Hamilton. How about that at Monaco? But no, Lewis Hamilton is done for today as he looks for a safe place to pull up, and it looks like he's going to pull up just at the side of the swimming pool chicane. No safety car needed, but Lewis Hamilton retires from the Monaco Grand Prix. And on lap 24, we've fast forwarded a little bit. There has not been much to tell you about. We're now going up towards the Casino Square, but all we've been doing is looking at the back of the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. You can see how close we are to these cars, but Alonso is frustrated with Albon, we're frustrated with Alonso, and coming towards the end of the Grand Prix, there's nothing we can seem to do about these two cars in front of us. There's a couple of big gaps in the field, to be fair, as we see Pierre Gasly, who's gaining on us at the moment by around a second a lap. But it isn't going to be enough to catch us, and even if he does catch us, we're not going to let him pass, because we're just going to continue in this little Albon train, which is conducting very, very well, it must be said, very frustratingly. If we have a look at a little bit further up, Kevin Magnussen in P7. He's got a big gap to Lando Norris, who's sitting pretty in P6 at this moment in time. He'll be happy with that. Leclerc and Sainz in P4 and 5. The two Ferraris running close by each other, Perez and Verstappen. But George Russell, he's got to keep it out of the wall, and George Russell will win the Monaco Grand Prix. And keep it out of the wall he has. George Russell coming round the final few corners. What a victory this is going to be. Verstappen's caught him a little bit. It's 3.3 seconds the gap to Verstappen. But George Russell comes round the final corner, and George Russell will win the Monaco Grand Prix from Max Verstappen. Perez in P3. We quickly cut back to our point of view because we're still behind Alonso and Albon, but I think we've given up the ghost now. We know that we are not going to manage to overtake these two cars as we go into the swimming pool chicane for the final time. It's been a frustrating Monaco Grand Prix for us, it must be said, but P13 again, we've beat Yuki Tsunoda, which is the main thing, which is a big moment for us. But as we clout the wall and get some wing damage, because why not? We've done all that race without getting any wing damage, and then we get it on the last few corners. But it's not going to make a difference, as Alexander Albon deserves all that. P11 for Alexander Albon. Alonso comes in P12. He'll be frustrated, but not as frustrated as us in P13. Let's get to the podium celebrations.
And a victory they can be proud of for many years to come. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take the top spot, a well-earned victory for...
What a drive from George Russell, winning at Monaco in front of the two Red Bulls. That Mercedes is looking exceptionally competitive at this moment in time, and fair play to George Russell. It's a great win and a memorable one for him. Definitely in that Mercedes. Champagne's flowing. It's not going to be flowing at Manor Racing, although 13th is not the worst position in the world. Let's have a look at the full classifieds. So George Russell takes the win, as we saw on the podium, from Max Verstappen, Checo Perez in P3, Leclerc in P4, Sainz following his teammate on there. Lando Norris doing very well in P6, Kevin Magnussen P7, Bottas 8, Piastri 9th, Lance Stroll getting the final points paying positions. We were stuck behind Alexander Albon for most of the race, as we saw in P11. Then came Fernando Alonso. We were in P13 again. Unlucky for some, I know. Ollie Caldwell all the way at the back with one DNF, and that was Lewis Hamilton. What does it mean for the standings? Well, driver standings wise, Max Verstappen is now on 98 points from Charles Leclerc, his closest challenger. Sergio Perez in P3. Hamilton drops a little bit further back with that DNF, but George Russell is up into P5. We stay in P14, level on points with Valtteri Bottas. We'll take that at this moment in time. Ollie Caldwell all the way down the bottom with Nick De Vries, Logan Sargent, Gasly and Tsunoda, who have not scored points as of yet. If we have a look at the constructors, Red Bull are still in the lead by 50 points now from Ferrari, Mercedes in P3. We're all the way now down in P10. We've dropped a couple of positions with Haas and Alfa Romeo Sauber overtaking us. Much work to be done as we head into the next one. I hope you've enjoyed that. It can be a procession at Monaco, as we've seen a little bit today, but I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one. Ta-ra!